when Avraham Avinu won the war with the 4 kings, the Torah tells us that he won a lot of the booty. He won a lot of stuff that he could have taken home. Did he want to take anything to himself? No. Why not? He says, I don't want to take, even if I take a thread or to a sandal strap, I'm not going to take anything that's yours. Because he said that, the Gemara tells us in Masechet Sotah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewarded him and his children of special mitzvot. What is that? The Jewish people were rewarded with the mitzvah of Techelet, that they can take a string and dye it with a blue dye called Techelet. Techelet, everybody knows what Techelet is, we'll say in a second. Why? And the Gemara tells us there's something unique about Techelet. What's so unique about Techelet? The Rabbi Meir tells us Techelet is unique because the color of the Techelet is similar to the sea, and the sea is similar to the sky, and the sky is similar to the Kisei Kavod, the throne of glory. Now what does that tell you? Why? So seemingly there's something unique about Techelet. You're supposed to look at it, and it's supposed to remind you of the sea, and the sea is supposed to remind you of the sky, and the sky is supposed to remind you of what? Of the Kisei Kavod. Now, what does that mean? So, what's the comparison? So, the Rashi tells us is because whenever you are going to wear the Techelet, you're going to see it, that Kadosh Baruch Hu is above you, and by reminding him the throne of glory. Every time you're going to see, it's like, oh, why do I have blue here? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is always above me. There's a throne of glory right above me. That's what's going to remind him. That's what Rashi says in Masechet Menachot. In Rashi, the same Gemara in Masechet Chulin, the same line of the Gemara, he says the opposite. He says when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at his throne, when Hashem is sitting on his throne, what does it remind him? He's reminded of the throne. The throne, the color of the throne seemingly is the color of Techelet. So when Hashem looks at his throne, he looks, wow, blue. You know what else is blue? Hashem says the Jewish people take the mitzvah of Techelet. Oh, I'm going to remember the Jewish people. I'm going to remind them, and he reminds himself, so to say, the mitzvah the Jewish people perform. That's another way to see why there's such a comparison. A third Gemara, the third Pshat Rashi says in Masechet Menachot, it says when a Jew wears Techelet, is considered as if he carries the throne, the holy throne, and the glory on his body. That's how important it is, which is a very big, prestigious thing to do, right? And the fourth Pshat Rashi says also over here in Masechet Sotah that all those people who fulfill the mitzvah are considered like they've greeted the Shekhinah, like you met the Shekhinah. So there's 4 different Shekhinah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the question is asked, Rabotai, why? The Rabbi Meir tells you why you need 3 steps. What's the 3 steps? Let's remind ourselves again. The 3 steps is that the Techelet is similar to the sea is similar to the sky, and the sky is similar to Kisei Kavod. Why we need the 3 stages? 2 is not enough. Just say that it's similar to the sea, and the sea is like Kisei Kavod. Why we need these 3 stages? So that's the question. You don't need the middle stage of that the sea is similar to the sky. You don't need that. You don't need that stage. So Rashi explains and he says no. He says that Techelet is not exactly the same color as the sky. It's not the same color as the sky. It's more similar to the color of the sea. So therefore you need the middle stage. It's somewhere because the sea is somewhere in between the Techelet and the color of the sky. That's what it is. So it's an interesting pshat. We're going to talk about Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Levi Herzog. I think his grandson is right now the president of Israel, but he was a big rabbi, he was a big Talmid Chacham. He writes, if you take the word Techelet comes to the words Chaf Lamed. You know Chaf Lamed? Kalu. Kalu means what? Destroy. Lechalot, who means to destroy. So he says, by wearing Techelet, it reminds you of 2 different things. What? Number 2, there's 2 things. 2 significance. It reminds you of Kadosh Baruch Hu's throne, as we just said. And it also reminds us of the glory and the miracles that Kadosh Baruch Hu did by the ocean. What did Hashem do by the ocean? And he also killed our enemies. He killed our enemies. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a lot of miracles. If you read Haggadah Shel Pesach, there were many, many miracles on the sea, much more than the ocean, than the Eretz Israel. It was much more by the ocean. So you see, Rabotai, what reminds you of all those miracles? What reminds you of those miracles is the Techelet. But now, Rabotai, let's understand what is this Techelet. Where this Techelet come from? We say in Kriyat Shema, Rabotai, 3 times a day. The Torah says Petil Techelet. You gotta put Petil Techelet. You gotta put a string of Techelet on your tzitzit. It's a special mitzvah. Not only do you have to tie a 4-corner garment with tzitzit, you must take one of those strings and you must color it with Techelet. Does anybody know what Techelet is? You can't just take. Can I take a chemical blue, color blue? Take a color marker from my child. I'm gonna take a child. I'm gonna color blue. Is that enough? Oh, there's a name. There's a special fish that it comes from. So let's understand. Do we have it today? That's number one.
Maybe.
We'll discuss that. But up until recently, it was missing. What happened to it? Why did it all of a sudden gone? If you open up the Gemara tells us Abaya had Techelet. Abaya, times of the Gemara, Amoraim had Techelet. So there are two explanations. By times of the Geonim and the Rishonim, there was no more Techelet. What's the reason? Number one is because Jewish people were in exile. We were kicked out of the country so many times, we don't know what it is. And the second, which is proved also by a lot of historians, proven that the Romans outlawed selling any purple or a blue colored item. If you remember, there's a color called royal blue, and there's proven in the history books. A lot of the historians are signifying that if you had blue color, you would be put to death, pain of death, if you would have such a thing. So it was only reserved for royalty. And if any guy was caught having such a color, oy vavoy to you. So that's what it is. So when did it start? There was a rabbi in 1887. His name was Rabbi Gershon Henoch Leiner. He was the Radzin Rebbe. He was a Hasidic Rebbe. But he took a project. He says, I want to find what this Techelet is. I want to find it. The Radzin Rebbe. So he went to do a lot of research. He went to different countries, Italy, places like that. And he started to go to universities and doing all this research. And he came to a conclusion that after all the research, he wrote books on it and explanations, that it is something, it's called the cuttlefish. I want to show you the picture. This is a cuttlefish. Anybody sees a cuttlefish? This is a cuttlefish according to him. You know what a cuttlefish is? Here's another picture. It's a much nicer picture like that. That's called a cuttlefish. Now, if you've probably seen this in movies or places like that, it spits out dye, black dye. Right? If you go to the market, you can go online, you can actually buy ink. This is how it looks like. It's called cuttlefish ink. You see this? Cuttlefish ink. You can get it. It's black. You see it's black? Now, all of a sudden, he said, I can turn this into blue. And he said, this is the Techelet. In 1887, Rabotai. So this is how it started. So up until 1887, and he wrote books on it, and he was, wow, groundbreaking project. And all the Gedolim, all the rabbis of the generation started to talk about it. Is it? Yes? No? We'll discuss it in a minute. However, a few years later, in 1913, there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog. He was the chief rabbi of Israel at the time. And he went and he made research also. He started to do a lot of research. And he said, listen, show me how the Techelet is done. So they showed him how his Hasidim showed him how it's done. And he said, wait a minute, it's black, like I just showed you. It's ink. How did he get it blue? How did you take a black ink and turn it into blue? He decided that the scientists fooled him. The scientists took and they put some sort of a chemical, a blue chemical, a chemical that makes things blue. They just put that and they turned the black thing into blue. So he said, hey, you were fooled. The rabbi didn't know he was fooled, unfortunately. And he proved, so there's Rabbi Levi Yitzchak disproved that is the real Techelet. He said that is not the real Techelet. The real Techelet is, he said maybe it's the Murus trunculus we're going to discuss, but I think he went with more of another snail called the Janta. I don't remember if I'm pronouncing right, but he proposed that's that. Okay? So up until then, even then, people didn't accept that this is the real Techelet. Nobody made Techelet. I don't think anybody made this from the big Janta snail. So in 1980s, there was a professor, his name is Otto Elsner from Schenker College. He decided to figure it out. He decided, I want to go back to Murus trunculus, this little thing, which looks like this. This is what it looks like. It's a snail. This is what it looks like. It's a snail. It's a big and large one. It's tiny. I'll show you what it looks like in the hand. I'm not sure if this is how it looks like if you do it in the hand. It's very tiny. It's under the ocean. It's a diver taking a picture under the ocean. This is how it looks like. From that, you would take a little bit and you would come out a few drops of blood from that snail, and that's how you would make it. So he discovered it, because even the Rabbi Herzog Halevi said this is not it. He said maybe it is, but then he said it cannot be, because it comes out to be more purple. You see, if you would take it, it will come out to be much more purple than like that. So if you would expose it, if you would start coloring it, it comes out to be more purplish than blue. So how did he get it to become blue? It was only, they say, Tziyata Dishmaya, because he was working, and this thing is a very smelly. I don't know if you know fish and snails, and real live snail to speak out. It's disgusting smell. He was working in a laboratory, and they told him, listen, you got to leave. It smells. We can't work in the laboratory. So he was forced to do his work outside. and it's sun. So he squeezed it, and it was exposed to the sun. And as soon as it was exposed to the sun, a few minutes later, it turned into blue. So he says, wow, this is it. This is it. It turns into blue. And that is what he proved to say is Techelet. That's what most people wear Techelet today, is from this particular snail. From this particular snail. And they want to prove archaeologically, linguistically, and from Chazal, that this is the real Techelet. This is the real Techelet because they're saying, because we have many proofs for it, archaeologically. Number one, you see in Greek islands, in Crete, that they found bunch of these snails, particularly these Murex snails, to show you what, because they were using it for colors. They were using it for some sort of a factory. They were coloring it. You will have interesting, clothing they don't last. If you want to have clothing from 1,000 years ago, can you get such a thing? Can you get clothing? No, but they did find clothing back in 16 BCE, before Common Era. 16 BCE, so it was about 3,600 years ago. They found clothing on different garments, royal garments in Syria and other different places. In Siberia, which is colored blue. And if you do research where this blue comes from, it comes from this particular Murex. So they were going ahead and they were using it to color items back then. There is other things from archaeologically, they find inscriptions, but in Israel they also found a lot of factories. They were factories, especially on the portion where it used to belong to Dan, or Menashe, I'm sorry. And over there they found big factories that they also used to go ahead and make a lot of blood. They used to take it and squeeze it. Many other questions. So that's what Ramban says. If you open up the Ramban had a commentary on the Chumash, he says the reason we don't have Techelet is because nobody touches Techelet besides royalty. Because already you knew by then the Romans had a thing that only royalty do it. So you go see clearly. I'll show you. Even the Romans, they found coins. They found coins that are on the coins. They actually, you see, and the coins. If you zoom in over here. There is a Techelet, there's a chilazon. This particular chilazon, this particular snail is encrypted on the coins. That's what it is. You see it over there? And it says zoomed over here. This is the zoomed. It looks exactly like that Murex trunculus snail, because you see from here that the 70 years, the minted entire, the Roman Empire depicted the Murex snail. So seemingly it was something that was represented the royalty. So therefore, you see that that's one of the explanations, as we said, why it's no longer around and it was gone. Totally forgotten about. So, did everybody accept this Techelet? People are wearing Techelet like this. They're wearing specifically from this particular snail. Is that accepted or not? It's a big machloket. I just want you to know. It's not so simple. A lot of Chachamim said there's a back and forth. There's a whole group that say it's the real one. There's a whole group that says no. And they have many arguments. I'll just tell you a few, just on a bekatzeh mazleg, to kill you just a little foretaste of what it is. For example, they say Chilazon body is supposed to be like a sea, and the Murex body is clear. So they say no. Maybe they're talking about the shape of the body. There's many explanations to exactly why how to answer these questions. Many Rishonim say, for example, the Rashi says the Chilazon is a fish. Rashi says it's a fish. How are you going to say it's a fish? So they say if you turn around the Murex this way, and it really looks like a shape of a fish. Maybe it's not really a fish, but it really does look like a fish. And they put a fish next to it, you'll see it does look the same. Many back and forth. The Gemara says it comes up once in 70 years, but this, what is it? So it doesn't mean 170 years means it's a guzma, it's an exaggeration. It doesn't mean once in 70 years. It means it was very hard to get. Today they get it with scuba diving. They had to put scuba gear and you have to go down and get it. So it will take once in a blue moon, the shore would wash up these snails, but it doesn't mean the snails will come up every single time. So therefore, there's many other questions going back and forth. So just so you know, it's not so today agree that this is the Techelet. The question is, there's other questions they have. It says, well, maybe in the Brisk by the Soloveitchik family, they have a whole thing. They say, wait, you need a Mesorah, you need a tradition for this. So how do you explain that? How do you answer that question? They say no. They say Chazal and Rishonim say, listen, you're allowed to use archaeological proofs to come back and recover Mesorah, to things we forgot how to do. You can use archaeology. So that's debatable. Can use archaeology to go back and see what we used to do. Or the Bet Halevi says, no, our parents didn't do it. The cuttlefish that I just showed you, it was around area. You could go to any aquarium, you could see it. So our parents never used it So it shows you that we have a tradition. This is not the fish. That's not the fish. We have a tradition, we have Masorah. That's not the fish. So others argue, they say no. The other side says no, wait a minute. That's, 100%, that's not the fish. But how, the murex, this was not available. You can't tell me our parents had access to this particular murex snail. So, you see that they knew about it, they could have used it, they didn't use it. So it's very hard to say. So it could be that this is it. Many other things. It's minhag. Maybe it's wrong. They say. Maybe it's not real Techelet. Why would you spend $100 on a string like that? So even though it's not, maybe it could be wrong, but who said you don't get the mitzvah? If it's right, you do get the mitzvah. Yeah, but it doesn't mean if you do wear it and it's a wrong color, you still get the mitzvah. It doesn't passel your delete. So, but the biggest thing. So archaeologically, they have proved from historians and other places that could be it. But the biggest thing, number one reason, a lot of Sephardi rabbis don't wear it is because of the Arizal, and it's also a midrash that says that the Techelet will be hidden until Mashiach will come. Did you guys know that? What do you mean? We have it. Don't we say we have it? So they say, no, you see, it's a proof. It's not the Techelet that we have. It's not the Techelet that the Chachamim talked about, because the real Techelet is supposed to be proven. It's going to come out when Mashiach will come. Now that, the Ratz and the Rebbe already addressed that in his books, and there are many back and forth on this particular topic. Is according to the Arizal, is there Techelet or not? So he proved that, said no. What Arizal meant to say, maybe the power, the spiritual powers in heaven, what the Techelet does, that's maybe not available. But who's to say that we're not going to be physically finding an item? Who's to say that? Who's to say that maybe this is the real one? Okay, maybe spiritually it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing until you need the Bet HaMikdash for that. But in reality, who's to say that? Rav Yaakov Hillel recently published Shalot Teshuvot Vayashov Vayam Chelek Daled, and he has a long teshuvah proving, according to the Arizal, there's no way this is the real Techelet. It's impossible to have Techelet today. Only Mashiach will come, it's going to be revealed. That's what he proves. But there are other Mikubalim, there are other Kabbalists that say you should wear it, and they did wear it themselves. For example, Rasraya Deblitsky. He was a big Mikubal, he was a big Kabbalist, and there's many other ones that wrote in the Shalot Teshuvot. Rameir Eliyahu recently gave a whole shir about and explained that even according to Kabbalah, you could come and you could explain that there is today Techelet, even according to the Arizal. There used to be a hidden tzaddik. He's called the Chalban. Anybody heard about Chalban? No, he was called the milkman. He didn't have a beard. Anybody seen it? He was a big guy. He used to be able to see things nobody saw. And he said, I saw the Techelet, and he wore Techelet himself. And he said, I know that this is the real Techelet. He said, with my spiritual vision, I see this is the real Techelet. So technically, whatever that means, take it for whatever it is. But that's what he said, and he told other people, you don't need to wear it. But he said, this is the real Techelet. Now, let's. How many rabbis did wear it? I'll tell you a few rabbis, maybe you're popular, that did wear it. There was Rabbi, he was the head rabbi of the OU, the one of the biggest poskim. He was the Rosh Yeshiva Torah Vadat, Rabbi Yisrael Belsky. Anybody heard of him? He held, if it's a video online, you can see it says, I hold that the murex trunkles Vadai Techelet. It's 100% Techelet, he said. This is a Techelet, we found it through archaeology, Baruch Hashem. Hashem is giving it to us, close to Mashiach will come. So that's him. Rabbi, there's another one, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, son-in-law, Rabbi Zalman Nechemia Goldberg, he used to wear Techelet. Rabbi Herschel Schechter from YU wears Techelet. And one of the big Sephardi rabbis, Rabbi Meir Mazuz, he wears Techelet. He used to wear it only on Shabbat, but now I see pictures of him wearing Techelet on his talit, and they do a fundraiser. He wears Techelet 1 year, then they take it, they fold it, and they sell it on the dinner, the yeshiva dinner. It goes for 100,000 shekel. People pay just to get the rabbi's talit with the Techelet.
What are they going to do with it?
They wear it themselves. They auction it. They auction it, and the yeshiva goes. The money goes to the yeshiva.
Dov Kuk also wears it.
Rav Dov Kuk, right? Rav Scheinberg. Remember, you see the rabbi that used to wear a lot of tzitziot? If you pay attention to the pictures of him having tzitzit, one of the tzitziot of the 100 was with the Techelet. So many other rabbis that you probably are not familiar. Rav Yaakov Yosef, one of the sons of Rav Ovadia Yosef, used to wear it on the bottom. But their main you can't tell me that this is one camp. I have to tell you both sides of the story. There are some rabbis that say you don't have to wear it. I'm not going to say it's asur. I don't think that they would say it's asur to wear it, because if a guy does wear it, I don't think it's an avira. I don't think you get any avira, except maybe you're showing, the Rav Yitzchak Yosef writes in his Shalot Teshuvot, this is maybe Motzi Lazal Rishonim, you're showing to the other generations that there is, that you're better than them, and so on. So Rav Yitzchak Yosef, the chief rabbi of Israel, he would tell people, wear it underneath. Wear it, tuck into your pants. Nobody should know you wear it. Wear it, and we'll tuck it in under your pants. So there are many other rabbis that didn't wear it. Mordechai Eliyahu didn't wear it. Rav Elyashiv, it's a whole discussion if he wore it or not, because they came to Rav Elyashiv, they made a presentation for him, according to one sefer, and he said, I would tell people to wear it, but if I say wear Techelet, you know what's going to be? Everybody's going to drop in. People barely have food on the table. They're going to drop their chicken. They're going to drop their children. They're going to buy Techelet. And he asked the people producer, do you have enough for everyone? Can you produce enough Techelet for the whole Jewish people? If I say it's allowed, you should wear it. People are going to wear it. He said, no, we don't have enough for everyone. So he says, I'm not going to say it's allowed. I'm not going to say you should wear it, and that's it. So there are camps this way, there are camps the other way. So that's just so you know, you make a decision, you ask your rabbi and see what he holds. But just in your case, I want you to point out that there are a few common mistakes people make. Number one is people buy the cheap Techelet. If it costs $15, $20, you should know this is the rods in the Techelet from the cuttlefish. They take the cuttlefish, they still put the chemical, they make it blue, and they sell it very cheap, $15, $20. How can you tell it's this blue? It's like very dark blue. You can tell it's dark blue. If you see very, very dark blue, you should know this is most likely the fake one because it was disproven that this is not a real Techelet. So once you decide to wear Techelet, if you want to wear it underneath, whatever the way you want to do it, is you have to know that you make sure you tie the Techelet properly, so you should get the mitzvah. There's a machloket rishonim how to properly tie it. So they asked Rav Mazuz, and he said, Rabbi, how should we tie it? How many strings of the blue do you need blue? So he said 1 out of 8. So you see you have 8 strings. Over here you see you have 8 strings over here, and you see only 1 is blue. 1 is blue. That's the opinion of the Rambam. Sometimes you'll see 2. If you buy the ones and it's cheaper also because you have to cut only half a string to make 4 into 8. Only half of the string has to be blue. If you want to make 2 strings, then the whole string has to be blue because it's going to become 4, and so on. So that's number 1. And number 2 is you have to pay attention. You see over here, the first one is white, and the last one is white. So that's very important to know. If you see somebody, he's doing it because he wants to do the mitzvah properly, or he wants to do it because it matches with the suit. Many times people wear it because, it looks nice, because it's a style. Everybody's in the shuls wearing it. I wear blue suit. This matches with my suit. So that's why he doesn't care how it's doing. If you're wearing techelet on a talit, might as well get the mitzvah according to some Rishonim. The way with the Ben Ish Chai rules, and Rav Azu says we go like the Rambam. The Rambam will tell you the first is white, the rest is blue, and the last is white, and only one of the string has to be blue. 1 blue. If you put 2, there are other opinions how to hold it. There's a machloket. I'm not going to get into it. This is just b'kitzur of what is the story of the Techelet. So Rabotai, there are rabbis that will tell you there's nothing to lose to wear it. There's nothing. The only thing to lose is money. So if money is very hard to come by and you can't afford it, okay, don't buy it. But if you have the money, and you say, you know what, why not? You might get a mitzvah. According to some, this could be a real one, and you might get a mitzvah said d'oraita. So if you have nothing to lose by wearing techelet, but again, you have issues if you wear it publicly, in front of big people, in front of gedolim, maybe it's a bit more of an issue. Try to wear it inside, as Rav Yitzchak Yosef said, wear it inside. And many rabbis I know, they would publicly would not tell you, but if you go into their house and you follow them, or you meet them in the mikvah or whatever it is, and you see they do have techelet from the bottom tzitzit, the little tzitzit. So therefore, don't be surprised if you see different rabbis do have techelet. You might catch them have it techelet. Sometimes they won't tuck in properly, and you'll see a blue string sticking out. Don't be surprised. Everybody wears techelet, believe it or not, because every person wants to fulfill this mitzvah. Why not? It's a mitzvah that came in our generation. Why wouldn't you want to do it? Okay, Baruch Adonai.